Hello everyone, my name is Christian Scheier. I'm co-founder and head of AI at AimPower. I'll be talking about how we at AimPower leverage artificial intelligence and deep language modeling in particular to help clients predict effectiveness of advertising concepts and executions. The specific solution I'll be presenting is currently being deployed on our BrainSuite platform and is being used by more than 40 brand teams in more than 20 countries. So let's start by setting the stage and outlining the challenge against which we have developed this particular solution. Companies invest a lot of money in developing and deploying advertisements. Given these investments, it's natural for them to ask, how can we predict whether a given new campaign is actually going to be effective before we launch it and have spent all the money? Relatedly, they ask, how can we know what to change should there be an issue with a given campaign? Now, the current go-to solution to answer these questions is to run what's called a pre-test. Conceptually, pre-tests are relatively straightforward. We invite a few hundred people from the intended target group, so a representative sample. We show them the ad, and we ask them a bunch of questions, such as, what do you like about the ad? Do you find it credible, or would you buy the product given the ad? Now, while pre-tests certainly have their merits, they come with a few challenges that we have summarized here. And these challenges probably are the reason we think why fewer and fewer companies actually do run pre-tests. They just take a while to be conducted, especially if they are done well, which means it takes time to get the data and understand the data, report the results, and so on. And they typically are deployed only late in the development process. Now, the need, however, to test ads has increased over the past years because of the explosion of media channels and digital advertisement. So this is why we have developed this AI solution, which we refer to as augmented intelligence, because our goal is not to replace the human, nor is it to replace pre-test necessarily. It's really to help teams to optimize and evaluate ads as efficiently as possible. Now, before going into the details, let me briefly outline the key benefits as we see them. One, this tool can be used along the entire creation process, from the early concept stages to the final produced cut versions. Then we can test a lot of iterations along the process because the results are available instantly. Importantly, we still run a survey, but it consists of only one question where consumers type in free-form text whatever comes to their minds. Then we also invested a lot of time to expose the most helpful possible diagnostics so the team can really quickly understand what is a challenge, if any, and how can we fix it. Finally, we find consistently high correlations in predicting various effectiveness metrics with this AI system. I'll be showing an example in a moment. Before going further, let's quickly review how we actually train such a system, and how we set it up, and how we validate it. We start off with pre-training a large deep language model on large amounts of general text. We use what's called self-supervised learning, which essentially means that the system trains itself. So we can really feed it a lot of typically gigabytes of text. We then feed additional text coming from specific consumers in particular product categories of interest. So we want the AI not to only understand Chinese, French, and German in general, but really be tuned to understand consumer texts in a given product category. We then have a phase which uses supervised learning, in which the AI learns to take in consumer text and predict a given advertising effectiveness metric. And the final stage consists in validating this resulting AI against various pre- and post-test metrics, and, if available, in-market result metrics. So to give an example of how this validation can look like and what are the typical results we see, On the left, we see a comparison against or prediction accuracy of the AI of purchase interest. It could be also other persuasion scores or other metrics we have available from pre-tests. And we have R-squares of 0.7 and higher, which is very high. We also can validate, if available, against in-market data. And again, we, across many projects, see R-squares of 0.5, 0.6 and higher, meaning that an AI can really be trained to take in consumer text and make valid predictions of advertising effectiveness. To make all of this a bit more tangible, let's quickly go through a case study. Let's assume we want to test 3 different versions of a given new campaign, in this case from Budweiser. The process is exceedingly simple and very fast. The first thing we do is we run our mini survey where we show the ad to the target group and we ask them to type in their feelings, thoughts, associations. We collect all these texts in an Excel file where each row corresponds to consumer text of one person. And that's pretty much it. So we have collected the data in an Excel spreadsheet, and now we upload it to our BrainSuite platform. After the upload, the AI does its magic, which takes less than a minute, and exposes 3 types of information. An overall score on the effectiveness of the ad as a whole, and for each sentence that consumer wrote, we have a prediction of the AI. How persuaded is this person? How likely will he or she buy given what she wrote? And we have additionally exposed a lot of additional diagnostics to help team to really quickly navigate a given file and understand any given challenges that an ad may have, and then of course fix those challenges. Importantly, from each of these diagnostics, from each of these bars that we see here, we can click on the bar and get access to the underlying original texts. And this back and forth between aggregate metrics and raw data really helps teams to understand the results and then to further optimize a given copy. So here we see a full screen view of what the platform user is exposed to when having uploaded an Excel and getting the results of the AI pipeline. We see an overall impact score, which in this case is 60, which would be a medium result, because 0 is absolutely 0 effectiveness and 100 would be perfect effectiveness. So this ad we probably want to optimize a little bit. To do so, we start to read through the texts that the consumers wrote and link them here with the AI's prediction of how persuaded is this person. The focus is, of course, mostly on the ones that are not so persuaded, not so convinced, and to understand what is it that holds them back. And here we see by reading that some of them mention that there are dogs, Dalmatians, that they do not really understand the link to the brand. And we can further establish whether this is a real problem or just a few people writing about it by looking at aggregate analysis, like this one, which exposes which words go along with high versus low predictions. And we can see with the low prediction bucket here that the Dalmatians again show up as a topic. And that basically makes sure that we can really focus on the right challenge here, which would be how to better link the dogs with the brand. There's additional diagnostics we provide, and as we saw in the short animation, from each of these bars we can go back to the original text, and ultimately this helps teams to really understand the patterns of the results and quickly understand what to make better. So the net result of this entire process is that we have teams iterate through further and further optimized versions to finally end up with a good enough version that can be launched. Very important side effect of this, in our view, is that teams start to detect patterns as you iterate through various versions and then maybe also through various campaigns over time. Teams start to understand quickly what works for the brand and what doesn't work. And that results in first better agency briefings, because we already know things that do not work and we know what we should focus on. And also it means that they actually have to do fewer and fewer iterations to optimize a given copy. So to summarize the key takeaways, what are the benefits as we see them? First, we think the system is better than many alternatives because it is provides actionable insights and has good correlations with various effectiveness metrics. Second, it is very fast. It can basically be delivered instantly. And it is also extremely cost effective because one can run 1 full year of unlimited tests with our AI system for the price of 1 traditional pre-test. The ultimate benefit for us, of course, is happy clients. And with that, I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.